Hi everyone, and welcome back to the laboratory.
Kitty Quest Children's Museum!
Love of learning starts here.
Today in the laboratory, we're going to be working on practicing a technique that's used a lot in science and chemistry and even crime scene investigation. It's a technique called chromatography. So for this activity, what we're going to need some kind of paper. I'm using coffee filters. If you don't have coffee filters at home, you can probably also use thin paper towels or other things like that. But filter paper of some kind works the best. This kind of coffee filter that has the flat bottom and the ridges is not as good as the kind that are fully flat and kind of folded in half. So if you have those work even better than these. But these are the ones that I have. Other things that we're definitely going to need, we're going to need some water. Water is very important. I have water in this cup, but I'm going to use this cup. You need a cup of some kind to do the experiment in. You'll definitely need some markers. We're going to be using markers to do our chromatography with. Get a couple different kinds. I always like to do different kinds of markers, different colors. I'm going to do multiple versions of black, for example, is a really interesting one. And I highly encourage you have at least one black marker. Blacks and browns are often some of the most interesting things that we do when we're doing this chromatography. A couple other things, a pair of scissors to cut up our filter paper. And then you want some kind of a popsicle stick. This is actually a coffee stirrer, and that will work. And if you have a clothespin works really well because you can open and close it. Also that would work would be like a binder clip. And a paper clip would also probably work. We're going to try all of those different options as we go. So the first thing that we're going to want to do with this is we're going to want to try and flatten out our filter paper. I actually have more than one filter here. We only need one at a time. Try to flatten it out as best we can. So there we go. I have a flattened out piece of paper there. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to start by just cutting it in half. Straight down the center. And then I'm going to cut part of the bottom off. I'm basically just trying to make a large rectangle right now out of this paper. This is why some of those other styles that are a little bit flatter work a little bit better, is because you can get a larger cut out of the same one piece of paper. Now, it's important to know that I can get it into my cup. Right now I can't get this into my cup, so I'm going to cut this in half, and that will give me 2 pieces of paper to do tests with. So I'll be able to get off of 1/2 of my coffee filter, I got 2 very good rectangles to do tests with. Next, in this cup, you only want a little bit of water. So there, I just filled it up, about a finger's width from the bottom. And then what we're going to be doing when we're testing it is we're going to be taking our paper and folding it over and then using our clip, whatever kind of clip we have. So that's clipping it like that with that, or if I was using the paper clip, I would just slide the paper clip on. Basically, we're just trying to keep that in place while we're working. And then you want to make sure that you want to have the bottom of the paper touch the top of the water, but not touch the bottom of the cup. And so how we do that is I like to just roll the paper a little bit further around my popsicle stick until I test it. I'm not putting it in when I'm testing it. I'm just holding it over and making sure it looks like it will work. And this one, I believe, will. I'm going to use this clip here for that. Okay, so now that I know that that's going to work, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put some dots of marker on this. Now remember, we don't want the actual marker dot to touch the water, because then it will just pull out into the water. The color will pull out into the water. Instead, we want the water to be pulled up through the paper and touch the marker. You'll see what I mean once we get it into the water. So I'm going to go a little bit up, maybe a quarter of the way up the paper, and I'm going to draw some dots on there. I always really like black markers, so I'm going to put a black dot. I have a second black marker here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put that one right next to it. Then I have this kind of dark green, maybe. There's a purple here. You can use any colors that you have, any markers that you want. So now I have some dots on there. And if you have a pencil, you can write on a pencil with a pencil what each dot started as. Or you can write it down on a separate piece of paper, or you can just remember it. Any of those options will work. And so now we're going to take it and we're going to put it in so that it doesn't touch the walls, but it touches the water. Just remember, we don't want the water to go over the dots. And once it's in, we're going to let it sit and watch it go. And it will take a little while. You want to make sure that water is over the whole bottom. And we're going to let it sit for at least 5 minutes. So let's watch it go. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. I've been watching it go. And so now I'm going to pull it out, set that aside, and pull off my holding mechanism. And we can see that it looks different, doesn't it? So all the dots started right around here, and they've all moved a lot. It looks like, for some reason, my water was pulling up on this side more than it was on this side. And so it isn't totally even. The other thing is I think my dots were a little too close to each other. And you can see that because they all kind of blurred together. But we can still see some interesting things. This one and this one were both black. This one was that green, and this one was that purple. And what happened is that all the colors spread apart. So we have kind of the most blue. This black one on the side was the most dramatic, I'd say, where we have this blue up here, and then there's a still kind of big mix here, but there's yellows, and maybe even a little bit more of a different kind of blue down here. And so all of those spread apart. And the reason they did is that the colors in these markers are made up of a bunch of different pigments, different colored molecules. And so that's a bunch of little things that are floating around, and this is a washable marker. And that's important. If you did it and nothing happened, your marker might be a permanent marker. So because it's a washable marker, it can be dissolved by water. The water is pulled up through filter paper, because in this paper there's a bunch of very small little pads for water. And water is really good at pulling itself along things. So as it started going up, it pulled and dissolved the colors. But because there's a bunch of these tiny little pathways for the water to take, if it goes through a tight, narrow passageway, it might leave some of the larger molecules behind. And so this blue up here is our smallest molecule of our pigment. And the kind of yellows down here are going to be our largest molecules. And so it'll spread them apart. Now, an interesting thing you might find is hard to see on this one because they merge together, but different blacks. So even if this black and this black look identical, if I do both of them on a piece of paper, they might appear completely different. And that's because different companies use different sets of markers. So let's do it one more time. But this time I'm going to explain a little bit more about why we might use this. So I mentioned in the beginning that maybe some crime scene investigators might use this. And how that might happen is, let's say that they have a sample, for whatever reason, of a marker left on a piece of paper, right? So let's say I didn't know which marker it was, right? I just drew it on here, but let's pretend I didn't. And I found this spot on this piece of paper or on something else. They have ways of transferring it around. It also might not be a marker. It might be another chemical left behind. Any chemical can be sorted out this way. Just a lot of times you need special ways to see it. So because we have this dot, that's our unknown. And then there's two crime suspects. One of them has this pen on them, and one of them had this pen on them. And so we're like, well, we know that at the crime scene, they maybe left a signature or something, and it had a black pen. But which one was it? So we can take it and take these two kinds of pen, and then we can make two more dots. So I'll put one there and one there. And I'm going to grab a pencil real quick, because the pencil won't move up with the water. And I'm going to put C here for crime scene, and then I'm going to put a 1 and a 2. That way, when I'm running it, I know what it is. And I'm going to do the same thing. So I have this here. When the people are normally doing chromatography, they call this the developer, because it's developing the print. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to do my roll around here again, testing the height, make sure that I get the right height for this deal. Then get it all put together here. I like to bend the edge to make sure it's going to hang straight down. And then we're going to put it in. And once again, we're going to wait about 5 minutes. You can actually wait all the way until you see the water get all the way up to the popsicle stick if you want. But at least give it a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, in order to get some kind of separation. Oh, I made my water a little too low. There we go, perfect. I added a little bit more water because mine was a little low, and it would be easier to add some water than to unroll my paper. So I'm gonna let it sit there, and then we're gonna check back and see if we can identify our crime scene marker based on the two other marks that I made. All right, it's been about 5 minutes. I'm gonna pull out my paper here, and we are going to see about examining it. So what I notice is that both our crime scene and our number 1 here have this same kind of pink maroon color down at the bottom, and number 2 here doesn't have that. Also, this extra dark section here on number 2 is down low, whereas on 1 and our crime scene, it is up high. And so all of these combined make me think that the pen at our crime scene was pen number 1. Thank you all for joining me for this session of the laboratory. We'd love to see the things you make, so please take some pictures and either email them to us or tag us on Facebook or Instagram. Until next time, you all have a fantastic day, and remember to keep on exploring.
Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe for more videos, and remember to check out our website for additional activities and information.